to Houston Pagan Television for our latest episode number 3, featuring Jon Edens. And Edens. I always get the names wrong, Jon Edens. And today we're going to learn a bit about him and his past with the paganism at the community here. He's been around since the 80s, so he's got a lot of stories to tell. So, join me today in getting to know him. All right, Jon, nice to meet you.
Hi.
Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
All right, so, you've been around for quite a while. You've experienced quite a bit, more than I've been around.
I'm not that old, like I said. I got started, I guess you will, here in Houston, actually, back around 1983, 84.
That's when I was born.
Anyway, I'd actually been brought up Catholic and grew up in Arkansas, and every summer my family would send me to Subiaco, which is a monastery in Arkansas. I was supposed to become the priest of the family. Well, I am a priest now, much to the making my family upset. Not the kind of priest they were expecting. But no, I was brought up Catholic, was expected to be a priest, went to the monastery every summer, and when I moved down here, things just didn't click, and I still studied, but then I ran across a book that discussed Wicca.
Which book was this?
You would have to ask me that. I actually still have it at the house. Lady Sheba was the author. I can't remember the name of the book. But everybody out there should know. Lady Sheba. Anyway, like I said, I get confused between some of the stuff. I found this book, and I read it, and it started kind of touching me in a special way that made me realize that what I was feeling when I'd walk through the woods and stuff like that, that connection to God and the divine was more real in what the book said than what I was actually feeling while going to the churches and studying. And so that kind of led me on my path, and I started knocking on doors, because back then, I'm sorry to say, there was no internet. So you actually had to go door to door or find people you know. There were some wonderful people out there at the time. Pat and Frank, who had a little shop down the Heights. Wonderful people.
During the snail mail days.
Yeah, exactly. Don't laugh, I still use snail mail all the time.
Nothing wrong with it, it's reliable.
Yeah.
At least, snail mail doesn't go down, like the internet does.
Right. It just gets delivered late. Back then, actually, I think around, like I said, I mentioned before, I have a very bad concept of time, but Paul, who owns the Magic Cauldron, had a little shop up off the Katy Freeway up near Dairy Ashford, and just a little hole-in-the-wall place. This is before he became everything he is now, Paul Prevazon. And he had a gentleman working in his shop named Rowan. Now, Rowan was wonderful. I mean, he was awesome. I get goosebumps thinking about him. Just because, I mean, he was so knowledgeable, and he was so willing to help. And I'd go in there and sit there and just talk to him for hours. And he would explain things to me and take me around the shop to help out. Paul would occasionally work the mattress shop that was next door. I don't know if he owned it or a friend of his owned it or something. But he'd be working in the mattress shop, and Rowan would be running his shop. And it was just kind of weird.
So Rowan was kind of like one of your first mentors.
In a way, yes, he was. And then, like I said, Pat and Frank, they were always open to give information. I mean, they're a very wonderful, wonderful couple. they both passed on. Rowan, I don't know what's happened to him. He kind of disappeared after a while. And then,
Well, it's good that you had that source back then, because I know back then during that time it was very hard to find people that you could, a group, more than one person.
Well,
to talk to.
Luckily, there's actually a pretty good community in Houston at the time. While, like I said, we didn't have internet or anything like that, if you got your foot into the door somewhere, there was almost always someone willing to help teach you. Or if not teach you, at least to guide you or point you in a direction you need to go. There was another shop off of the northwest side of Houston called Moon Circles. And now they sold, this is in the middle of Hispanic, this is in a house in the middle of the neighborhood. They sold mostly Hispanic occult items, Santeria, stuff like that. But it's run by Gardnerians. And
adjusting to your environment.
No, exactly. you got to make the money, And I believe it was Connie was her name. And I would sit, we were sitting there just for hours and talk to her. And funny. But like I said, if you just got your foot in the door and you just start talking to them, if you were friendly enough, they would actually open up and start helping you out.
Well, that's definitely wonderful for back then. I mean, I've heard horror stories about back then about just not being able to find people, digging through libraries for weeks on end, trying to find just one or two books that explain that would tell you stuff.
Well, of course, back then the libraries didn't have anything on it. It was pretty much if you didn't find a shop or find somebody, you're pretty much SOL. But it was there available. You just had to take the initiative to find it.
Well, definitely it was good that you found it. And obviously that helps you through your path, and eventually led you to the different experiences you had. Like, that's the one that everyone's probably wanting to hear is your experience with Dianic Coven. How you're able to get to that.
And that is really odd, unusual, and the easiest way to say it is I don't know how the hell it happened. I was actually teaching classes at a place called the Ruby Rabbit.
I remember the Ruby Rabbit. I went there a few times back whenever I was still living in Maid Creek.
Yeah, I was actually, I can't remember her name now. The tall, blonde, redheaded girl that owned the place.
I don't remember much from back then.
Patricia or something. Anyway, I was one of her first readers. I was doing tarot for her, and I started teaching classes and doing things there. I was teaching Wicca 101 classes there. And this lovely lady by the name of Amada Vesla came in, and we kind of became friends. And the next thing you know, we're just talking, comparing notes. We did some ritual together, and next thing I know, it's like somehow or another I was part of a coven. Like I said, I'm not sure how. This was a Dianic coven. I was the only male in the coven. And they taught me a lot of good stuff. They taught me a lot. They taught me a lot about women's mysteries.
A little bit of background on what Dianic Wicca is.
Well, there's actually two forms of Dianic Wicca. You have the McFarlane Wiccans, which are actually based out of Dallas. I think that's where it started originally. That's also, if I remember correct, that's where the fairy Wicca and all derived from. They're not really the hardcore matriarchal as like the sibling Wicca would be. The group I belonged to were the sibling, basically. And they would not recognize the god in their ritual. It was strictly matriarchal. And in fact, I remember sitting one time, and they were sitting there just slamming men left and right. And I said, I'm getting out of here. No, you stay. You're just one of the girls. thank you, I guess.
Deep down inside, I'm sure they meant it as a compliment.
I'm sure they did. Although I have to say that being part of that has given me a whole new different insight and respect for women's spirituality, and I could probably recite a lot of the women's mysteries that are taught. But I'm sure my wife is happy with that too. So
save that for the adult audience.
Yeah.
But at least it did give you a background. I know a lot of men, a lot of people in general don't get to really experience that and learn more about them. And you got a first-hand experience. So, I mean, for one, you probably gained a lot of their respect, and two, gain a lot of knowledge about them. So you have a lot more respect for them, which is definitely good about, helps with later on future dealings, because people be like, at least he took the time to get to know us, which a lot of people don't get to do these days. They'll just.
I'm sorry.
So basically, you took the time to get to know them.
Oh, yes.
Which a lot of people these days, don't do. They just make assumptions about people instead of, learning about who they are and what they're doing.
Well, you always have the old saying, from the mouths of babes and fools. And many times I have learned, even from the mouths of fools, if you stay long enough, you will learn something.
Just a quick question. Exactly what path do you follow? Because you've had a lot of experience in different paths.
Right. So. Actually,
don't say Dianic. Don't say Dianic.
Okay. I'm my wife, myself, and one of our other coven members are founded Blackberry Circle, and we have actually developing our own tradition. It's based a lot on what I have learned over the years, as well as my wife's been practicing for about 12 years, 13, 14 years or so. Our friend Catherine, she's been practicing with us for 12 years or more. And so it's basically, we're doing somewhat of a reconstructionist, where within our own circle, we are working towards trying to be as accurate as possible with the dates of our celebrations based on astrological rather than calendar dates. That's one of the reasons our Samhain is so popular, because astrologically Samhain usually falls after the 31st. So when we have our ritual afterwards, we're the only ones doing it. But we also, some of the things I've learned over the years, and one thing's within, and I'll call it a Blackberry tradition, because that's what we were actually working towards, is we celebrate. We like to have fun. Humor is a integral part of our rituals, because laughter will raise that energy up to such a wonderful level, and it's laughter itself is so magical. And when people talk about celebrating, it should be just that. It should be a celebration. It shouldn't be sitting there, sorry Gardnerians, everything by the book, to rote, straightforward, this is it and that's it. You can't deviate. You see that a lot in with the let's say with the Catholic masses and things like that. Everything is set and everybody knows. We follow the basic guideline, ritual guideline that everybody's kind of familiar with, but we throw humor into it.
So it's kind of like a non-conformist, eclectic style Wiccan.
I will accept the eclectic part of it, but we're trying to really solidify it so that we actually have students in South and Central America. I have a student in Australia, one in Lebanon. So we're actually trying to get this to expand out so that everybody's doing the same, more or less the same thing, the same basic ideas.
That's good. How did y'all find Blackberry Circle? Like, how did it come to be?
Well, I've been teaching classes and holding open rituals since the early 90s around Houston. And I've always felt that need to, for lack of a better way to say it, to have a church. I've always wanted to have a place that people could come to, attend ritual openly, commune with other people of like mind, celebrate the gods and celebrate the turning of the wheel, and just be a place of comfort for them, or at least a gathering. We used to own an apartment complex in Conroe. We'd hold rituals in the backyard of the complex. And
neighbors probably had a few interesting looks towards that.
Well, actually, it's funny because all of our tenants were Hispanic. And there's actually one time that a couple of them would actually send the kids out to us. And the kids would take part in the rituals and everything. You know, But we had some new tenants that were sitting up there in apartment number 9. And we're sitting out there. There's probably about 20 of us out in the backyard. And we got the torches lit and the altar set up. And we look up and they're looking out the window at us. So without any signal or anything like that, we all turned and went, "Hi!" Curtain shut down, blinds shut down, lights went off. But nobody's ever late with the rent. Anyway, but we always hold open rituals. So my wife was driving by the house we live at now, and she'd always seen this old lady out there working in the yard. Well, it would come up for sale. She came home and said, "I want that house." I said, "Okay." Always look into things before you do things. The house was built in 1942, and we're working on restoring it to original. That's a whole other story.
Nice little text
anyway,
there.
Yeah. Anyway, it come with 4 acres of land. So we were out there walking through it, and it's like, you know what? This is a place where we can have ritual. And we're sitting there walking through, and we actually found where our current circle is. There was a circle of blackberries, exactly 9 feet across. And my wife looked at it and said, "Looks like Blackberry Circle." Wow. We're going to call it Blackberry Circle. And so we contacted, ended up buying the house, which the house actually has some story to it because we signed the contract to buy it in June. It kept getting delayed. We finally signed the papers. Actually signed our names on it at sunset on Samhain. And we're like,
it was destined.
It was destined. The daughters of the old lady we were buying it from, the whole time they're going, "Oh, praise God, praise God, praise God." My wife and I are sitting going, "We got a ritual to go to. Let's get this over with." But that's where it started at. We walked out there. It was a circle of blackberries. And so it became Blackberry Circle. We contacted some friends of ours, that Catherine being one of them, and we all decided, well, let's start it. So Yule of 2006 was the first public ritual, and then in 2007 we actually incorporated with the state of Texas. So we're a nonprofit corporation and licensed as a church, and we've just been going on since.
So, it looks like y'all actually have a really good story behind how y'all found Blackberry Circle. It almost sounds like it was predestined.
Well, my wife and I firmly believe that if we do everything we're supposed to, the universe will meet us, the gods will meet us halfway. And that's with any magic. You have to do at least half the work for the universe to do the other half. It'll only meet you halfway. So we do everything we believe that the gods want us to do. And they've always been thank you guys, by the way, making sure that, sometimes I look at checkbook going, how in the hell are we going to eat? Oh, hey, look at this over here. They always seem to supply. And we put a lot of, blood, sweat, and tears, into that land, getting everything ready for rituals, things like that. But every time, it's like, no matter what, the gods have always been there and have supplied, and it's just continues to go. So I think we're very lucky in that our patron and patroness are very watchful for us.
And hopefully it'll carry through. I mean, y'all got a lot of upcoming projects coming up, especially like this, the Interfaith conference y'all got coming up.
Right. We're going to start, this idea we had was to go ahead and, out in California, they have PantheaCon, which is a huge conference every year. Well, they have conferences on the East Coast, have conferences on the West Coast. They don't have anything down here.
Nothing central.
So we decided that we were going to start trying to set up conferences. So we're actually starting off small. This first one will be in May of next year, 2013. We've already signed on Raven Grimassi to be a keynote speaker. Him and his lovely wife will be down here to speak and to visit. We're approaching other pagans around Texas to speak at the conference as well. And the whole idea is we're going to have a conference, not like a festival per se, but actually a more of an educational conference, kind of like you would go to a technical conference, where you have your speakers, you have your debate of ideas, you have people presenting. This is what we think. No, this is not what it is. Well, prove your point. I'll prove my point. Have a good, legitimate debate, and not a fight, not an argument, but a debate of ideas. And our theme, I think, if I remember correctly, is basically magic and the divine, how they interact within each other. How can magic interact with the divine? And we have a very, very, very basic website up that has a call for letters on it. HoustonPaganConference.com. We're hoping to get this started, and depending on how well it does, we're going to try to, I don't know if we're going to have one within 1 year or within 2 years, but I'd like to see another one to follow that up that's even bigger. Right now, this is just getting our feet wet, see what's evolved, and try to,
see how it works out.
Yeah, exactly. We don't want to. We understand falling on our face. We don't want to get slammed in the face.
Well, from what I've heard, it sounds like it might actually work out. Just you got to give us time, and then got to work out the kinks. So give it the first one, then give it a second try, and probably do quite well.
We've actually gotten a very, very large response to the idea already. I mean, I think we're hoping about 150 seats available, and it looks like we may already have enough people who want the seats that it may not be on sale very long. As
we get closer, we'll get more details on it, and hopefully we can get more room too.
Well, I don't. Maybe the venue we're looking at, they're talking about 150 seats, but I don't know what else they have available. So they may expand it. I don't know. I can only go by what I'm being told. So.
Well, we have plenty of time to plan it out.
Yeah, that's the whole point. Get it planned out.
You also mentioned that you've also got a Texas Pagan Awareness.
Well, actually, it's excuse me. It's not really, it's not around anymore. But back in the 90s, in the 80s and 90s, there was a very large push for pagan rights. You had Supreme Court decision, or actually it wasn't Supreme Court, it was a federal court decision, district court, on some of the, I'm trying to remember the exact case. It was off the East Coast, and anyway, they basically said, recognized that Wicca was a religion. Now, government law, the law says that government cannot determine what a religion is or not. if a person is a true believer, they cannot determine whether that person is actually a believer or a follower. So back in the 80s and 90s, there's a big push for pagan rights. And Texas Pagan Awareness League was part of a larger group that kind of fell apart, but I kept it going. And I have letters from 4 presidents and several congressmen. In fact, Ken Brady knows me pretty well after I showed up in his office quite a few times. And it's basically, we just sat there and we stood up for the people's rights to be able to come out of the closet and to, be recognized, not even just simply recognized, simply allowed to practice without problems. And so, I mean, that was in effect for quite a few years, and now the need just doesn't really exist. I mean, you have Circle Sanctuary, I can't remember her name, up in Wisconsin, who does who's like really involved with in the headstones for the pagan military. Serena Fox.
Oh yes. Getting the pentacles put on there.
Right. Anyway, you have her and some of the groups like that are doing a good job. There's not really a need for Texas Pal anymore, so it kind of fell apart about maybe about 10 years ago.
But at least you did help get the ball rolling.
Yeah, we were actually we wrote a amicus curiae, which means friend of the courts, for the Santa Fe Supreme Court decision, where someone sued the Santa Fe School District saying that they should not have prayer at football events. And it went all the way up to the Supreme Court of the United States. We filed our amicus with them, and Supreme Court found in favor of the plaintiff or the people saying that there should not be prayer in schools or prayer in the football games. So we were involved with that. We were actually caught a little bit of interest when we actually supported a Christian girl up in Willis for having the 10 Commandments on her book. She had a book cover, had 10 Commandments on it. Well, the teacher got upset and made her throw it away. Well, we actually went up there and stood up for that girl, and that caught some news because here's a pagan group standing for a Christian, but that's what we were about. Freedom of religion is all religions. Mm-hmm. It's not just that.
A lot of people seem to.
So we actually took that to that step.
I mean, stand up for one religion, it's nice. Stand up for multiple religions shows, fortitude and diversity within yourself. Because a lot of people forget that that it's a country founded on multiple religions and
right.
Freedom of religion. And everybody seems to think it's just one. It's like you can't have that. There's too many of us. From two different, you got Buddhists, Taoists, pagans, you got Muslims, and if you're gonna fight for one, fight for them all.
Exactly.
Why not? Like it's freedom for everybody.
Or better yet, we shouldn't have to fight for any of them. Just let them live. Let them be.
And on top of that, you've also helped with the Pagan Online Campus, I believe it was.
Right. The other girl hadn't been involved in years, but one of the founders of the Pagan Online Campus, which is a free school that all of our teachers volunteer their time to teach students on various metaphysical subjects. I mean, I teach beginning Wicca, magical theory, advanced Wicca, Sabbats and Esbats. We have teachers that teach herbology, magical herbology, medicinal crafts, astrology, gemology, all kinds of stuff. And now, while we don't offer all the classes all the time, because, like I said, every one of us volunteers our time to teach. And so it's, I took about a 2-year hiatus. I still maintained the campus and did what I could administratively, but I didn't teach for about 2 years, and now I'm back at it full force again.
How did you get involved with it? Like, were you one of the co-founders of it, or?
Yeah, I was one of the co-founders.
Who else was involved? Who else was involved with it?
I'm going to kill myself because I cannot remember her name. She has not been involved with the campus for about 5 years, 6 years,
Unless
or
she kills
7
you
years,
first.
8 years. She was a lovely young lady out of New York, and she and I were talking about, the need for this, and so we started off on an MSN group, and then I purchased a domain, moved it to my server, and set up the classes, and shortly after that, she left to pursue whatever her life had in mind for her, and I continued with it and was able to get more teachers in, and we just kind of kept growing. We've had teachers come and go. We averaged probably 1,500 students per quarter. I try to keep them during the in between the major Sabbaths. So we usually have 4 quarters a year, 10, 12 weeks apiece, and we have a lot of people sign up. Very few finish classes, and not because it's hard, but I think they just didn't think it was going to be that much work. But they learned something.
Well, obviously it's been pretty effective because it's still going strong today. It's been like 10 years now.
About 10 years now. Yeah.
Almost since the dawn of the internet. Honestly, it's been going pretty good. I mean, you've had a pretty enriching life, apparently, from what I can tell. You've had experiences.
Yeah, but it's not even over, so I'm not even worried about it so far.
You've done and experienced a lot more than a lot of people could say. I, for one, kind of envious.
It's just
been involved so much.
When you go out there and just take the steps to learn, and I'm actually very antisocial. I do not like people. I'm sorry, but I do not like people. But I'll push through that so I can meet with people. I love to debate ideas. For my friends on Facebook and everything, I get into some very heated debates with my friends on there, over especially politics. But I love each and every one of them, and that's the whole point of it is to be able to debate the ideas back and forth. And when you approach people with ideas and you're open to accepting them and to think them over and to debate them back, you end up learning a whole lot more, not only about yourself, but the other people, other ideas, and sometimes you find those little threads of truth in there. And again, from the mouths of babes to fools. So
there's a quote I once read is life is growth, and interacting with other people is growth. You always gain new knowledge and new experiences for each interaction with each person you gain.
Right.
So if you don't interact with people, you don't grow.
Right, and that's true, especially in Wicca and paganism in general. There is so much information available on the internet and books and stuff like that it's there for people. There's a lot of BS out there, but you have to wade through it and to decide for yourself, does this really sound right? Does this work? Does it not work? And actually go out and find people and approach them and talk to them. There are such wonderful, wonderful elders still around in the Houston community, and many of them are becoming involved again, and which I like. But they're becoming more involved again, and just simply talking to them, you'll garner such little tidbits of wisdom here and there. There's one lovely lady that I'm enthralled by her all the time, and she's a true elder of the community, and I just sit and talk to her I can listen to her talk, and she just, I don't know, you get these little bits of wisdom and information. And even I've been practicing for almost 30 years. And
a little more, I'd say.
well, okay. Anyway, even now, I still get the mysteries, the aha moments. They still reveal themselves. About a year or so ago, I was sitting there reading a book, and I had an aha moment. One of the mysteries revealed to me of something that I have known for years, but it finally made sense just like a year ago.
Like a light bulb.
Exactly. That's exactly what it is. And that's what the mysteries are, too. It's the little light bulbs go off like, damn, that's what that was. So, or it could be a cosmic 2x4.
As long as we keep the women in our lives happy, we can avoid that.
No, those are cosmic frying pans.
Oh, yes. All right, well, it was definitely a pleasure to have you on here.
Oh,
I've learned a lot
thank you.
from you, and you have a very enriching life. We'll definitely, more than likely, get you back on here. We can talk some more, get some other people in here.
Okay, anytime I can.
And I'd like to thank everybody else for joining us for today. Join us next time for the next episode. We'll be featuring Michael Hart, who's a local author who wrote the book The One-Horned God, Man's Guide to Paganism. And from what I can tell, he's had quite an interesting experiences with being a pagan author. So join us next time for his show. Thank you, and blessed be, and have a good night. Ese